movies. Oh gosh, it's another wintry spring day here in San Diego.
A beautiful wintry spring day,
Yes.
gray and blustery, the way you
We
imagine
haven't seen
spring.
the sun for 2 days. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, it was for me. It was a little sunnier yesterday, but today it is grayer and a little colder and windier. And hope that means rain's coming soon.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like it's overcast and it looks like it's going to rain, but it hasn't really rained. It's been kind of drizzly in some parts of the county, but it's like at least rain. We need
Give
rain.
me rain.
Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. It is Thursday, April 22nd. It is Luke, I can't.
No, it's just the lighting. We've just explained the weather is a little overcast and gray.
I'm not sick, okay?
I'm like, dude. Not.
rude.
I'm like,
rude.
is that your pickup line on dates? Like, you look sick.
Yeah,
Are you tired?
never say that to a woman, ever. Don't do it. You're not going to get a good response.
I know, I'm like, you better be the best comedian in the world if you're going to start with that line.
Yeah.
No, we're just giving you hell. It's okay. But seriously, don't do that.
We will be talking about our fourth installment of Movies About Movies, which is Adaptation, another Oscar winner, of course. But before that, let's talk about yesterday's Woman Crush Wednesday, the absolutely fabulous Vivian Leigh, and we chose her second win, Streetcar Named Desire. It had been years since I'd seen this. Okay, so here's what's funny about this. So, I mean, there's lots of things that are funny about this, but I own this movie. It's part of a Turner Classic Movies box set, or it's not even really a box, but there's 4 movies in each set. I have one that's like, this one's musicals, this one's romantic comedies. This one, the category they threw this under was romantic dramas. And all the other movies in this, it's like emphasis on the drama more than the romance.
Yeah, there's not a lot. There's no romance in this movie.
No, it also includes Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, East of Eden, and Rebel Without a Cause, all of which are like very dramatic movies.
And I would not call them romantic dramas. Not a single one of them.
No.
Like Cat on a Hot Tin Roof is like it's another Tennessee Williams play about a closeted man who's forced into marriage, basically.
There is no romance. I would call these dramatic dramas.
Dramatic drama. Ooh,
that would be the category for this, because my God, this play is so dramatic.
I was crying again. I had not seen this in years, and it reminded me of how I watched this movie a lot. After the first time I saw this movie, I ended up watching it like all the time. I think it makes sense. When you've read the play, you know what the deal with Blanche's first husband is. It's that she discovers that he's homosexual. She gets angry at him and he runs out and shoots himself. And that's this catalyzing incident for this sort of hysteria that she's
the homosexual part in this.
Yeah, no. Well, they weren't allowed to. So the Catholic Legion of Decency actually threatened to give it their lowest rating, which means the film is condemned, because the film was, talks about nymphomania, homosexuality, rape, and spousal abuse. And it was like all these things that, movies had to be for everyone, children included, because anybody could get a ticket and come into the theater. And so they're like, well, we can't let movies like this be available to everybody, so we have to condemn them so people don't let subjects like this on the screen. So they had to fight for this to be made, even with what's in it. But there were numerous things cut, including little lines here and there. Like when she talks to the paper boy and she's like, let me kiss you softly and sweetly on your mouth. They originally, when this was edited, so the version that was available until 1993, until 1993, the only version of this movie available had that words on my mouth cut out because they considered it was too lewd. All the reference to the character being homosexual were eliminated. They cut out the rape. They wanted to cut out anything to do with the rape. They cut out so that whole scene where Stella gets the famous moment where he screams Stella. Originally, you know, we see it now. Now we know it with all these things in it. But that part where she goes back to him and she comes down the stairs and she's clearly turned on, and even though she's just been beaten by him, she clearly wants to still have sex with him right now as she's walking down those stairs. And then her hands groping his back. That whole part was cut out. So until 1993, that whole part of the scene wasn't even in the movie that anybody saw.
Wow.
And so all those things were recovered and put back in. So there's all these moments that, like, now you see, I mean, it's a more complete movie with those bits added. I mean, there's still, you have to infer, what they mean by weakness and fragility in her first husband. He's a poet. Like, we kind of get it. Like, that's pretty much how gay men have been described forever. They're weak and fragile like women is basically how gay men were perceived. And that's pretty much what you're supposed to get from that. Tennessee Williams was really upset, obviously, at what Hollywood was trying to do to his play. So this really fell down onto these actors to give everything that was in that play in their performance, even if the words weren't there sometimes. And I feel like all over again, I'm like, you can understand why a gay man would have been obsessed with Blanche Dubois. Like, just her character by itself, like, there's a fabulousness about her. Her even just her vocabulary, the way she expresses herself verbally is itself a fantasy and a vision and beautiful and magical and everything she wants her life to be. So it's like, you can understand, like, I'm obsessed with her. Of course, also gay men love drama. That's another stereotype that, sort of was supported by how many gay men know this play in this movie, like, word for word. And especially Blanche Dubois' dialogue. But I was so heartbroken. This movie, like, really broke my heart all over again, because it's just so hard to see someone who is clearly ill, mentally ill, who really, if someone had just shown her more kindness and treated her like a person, may never have been that ill. And then it's paired with somebody who is, like, very sadistically enjoying destroying any semblance of happiness that she manages to create for herself. And she's, like, on the verge the whole time, and that, if you just treat her okay, she probably won't go nuts. And you just see this person really who's incredibly selfish and loutish and brutal and a horrible human being in every possible way. Still feels like a human being, but he doesn't do anything good. Like, it's just, like, it's so painful to watch her deteriorate and see this person torture her emotionally over and over, and then physically, and then culminating in the cataclysmic moment that finally drives her completely over the edge. Which that's another thing about this movie that was changed from the original story, which is Stella doesn't believe Blanche. She thinks Blanche made up the story or imagined it, or that if it happened, that Blanche did it intentionally. That it was that she does not believe that her husband raped Blanche. And so the story ends with them, oh, she's crazy. She's saying this insane thing. We have to put her away. And she stays with him. That's how the play ends. It's very realistic and really, really depressing, because the whole story is about the destruction of this fragile, sensitive beauty that, and this is what modern society does to these kinds of souls. It just crushes them because somebody has to feel better about themselves by making somebody else, putting somebody else down. And that's pretty much all Stanley does. And so it's like, when they made the movie, they're like, you can't have that ending. He has to be punished somehow for the horrible person that he is. He needs to be punished at the end of this movie. And so they invented all that, like, where his friends are like, they suddenly look at him like, oh my God, you are a bastard. And Stella's like, I'm never going back. Like, that's not in the play.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of got the impression that even though she said she was never going back, she's going to go back. I mean,
she said that earlier in the movie. But how was it for you, like, watching? Because you feel like you were transported by Vivien Leigh in this movie into her mind, and the look of the movie feels like you're in this fractured, tortured place with her. Should have won all the awards.
Yeah, it had been several years since I'd seen this, and I kind of forgot that she really is the lead in this. I guess I expected, from what I remember, I think I thought that like maybe Marlon Brando had a little bit of a bigger part, but you can even see that she has top billing for this movie, which was also kind of rare, even though she had already won an Oscar and everything. But yeah, she was a woman. Um, yeah, she was just absolutely incredible. And it's so sad. I mean, this just the plot of this. It's like every person in this pretty much is horrible in some
Her
regard,
sister,
and it's like okay. She's supposed to be the most like you guys are judging her because she was promiscuous at the Flamingo Motel.
like that's all you've got? Like you think you're morally superior to this person? Like you who beats your wife regularly and treats her like garbage are gonna come down and probably have cheated on her, most likely.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna come down on somebody else and then destroy her one last chance at happiness. Because and you're trying to justify it with this shit, but you know that he's just completely full of it. And you know, also I think he's partially upset because I think he thought he married a meal ticket and that they would just fall into some stuff. So when he hears that this house is gone, he's suddenly very interested in it. I'm like later you're like, oh, I pulled you down off of those columns and you loved it. I'm like, yeah, but you were expecting to go back to those fucking columns and collect a whole bunch of money, and then you hated this person even more because you think that they somehow squandered something that you were never entitled to begin with. He's just such a trash human being, and it's like he's just so well acted by Marlon Brando, you know. But he's one of the most hateful characters like in theater or film as far as I can see. And also, her sister pissed me off more this time. When I used to watch as a kid, I never blamed her sister for anything, but I'm like, no, her sister pretty much abandoned the family to go off with this asshole that nobody liked for good reason, obviously, and left her sensitive, fragile sister to watch over the family. And so you realize, oh my God, Blanche has watched her whole family die. When she walks in looking haunted and kind of shaken, it's like, well, you realize she's like just come back. Her father, her mother, her other sister have died. There's no money left. And the whole town drove her out because she was in such grief over losing her husband who kills himself that she sought companionship with anybody who would give it to her. And now she's being demonized for that. She loses her job because she makes the mistake of finding a 17-year-old attractive. It's just like, I mean, that is like the one questionable part that makes her a slightly more complex character. Yeah. Because another line they cut out of this movie was that, no, I can't, when she sends the paper boy away after she kisses him, she's like, no, I can't do anything with children. Like, I can't, like, she's been taught, like, I was like, oh. But no, it's just like, you can tell she's been through all of that the first moment you see her on screen. And it's like the whole concept of the word desire in this movie just becomes so gargantuan because of her performance more than anyone. It's like obviously Stanley's selfish desires drive his sort of brutish, piggish behavior. Stella's desire just for sexual thrills. Like also that morning after moment with Stella. It's like one of the few times I can think on screen that I saw a character in a post-coital glow that felt realistic. Like you felt like she just had the best time of her life in bed and she's willing to put up with anything for it. It's like another drug that she's addicted to. And I'm like, you know, of all the people here, Blanche, the one who seems the most lost, is also the one who's kind of the most grounded because she's the one who's been through the worst things leading up to this moment. She's experienced harsh realities more than any of these people have, you know, and it's clearly driven her mad. And
yeah. And then I think one of the most heartbreaking moments too is I can't think of what's the character's name, the one that she's interested in. The
one played by Carl Malden.
Yeah. The part where it's like he finds out, you know, about her sordid past, and then he's like, oh no, like I don't want to marry you anymore. Like I want something else from you. I was like, really, dude? Like you too?
You too. And you thought the whole time, like, oh, you were like, maybe he'll be good enough to see Pat. Nope.
Yeah.
he had this ridiculous expectation that she needed to be pure and young to be good enough for him.
Yeah, and then
And
it's
you
like,
thought that he wasn't that kind of guy.
obsessed with how old she is, even
I'm
though
like,
the
she's
thing is
not
she's
that
younger than Stella too. It's like Stella's here having a baby, like
right. Also, I'm like, are you not looking at the same person we're looking at? Just because she has a couple crow's feet, suddenly Vivian Leigh is not beautiful and an admirable trophy for the arm of some poor, like jerkwad who works in a factory and thinks, it's just like,
yeah.
dude, like, I get that there's a class divide here and she's putting on airs and, it's very offensive to someone who really works hard for their living to have someone with these airs come in and say what's pretty and what's not pretty and what's delightful and what's not. Like, there's obviously something there that is real for them too. But I feel like the balance of like what you get in exchange for what you give, she is so much more punished than anyone else for being someone, like she said, I just want magic. Is that so wrong that I want the world that I live in to be beautiful and special? And you can see every little touch where she's put her imprint on that space is beautiful. And she's created these little tiny corners that it's like, okay, this is my one nice little area for me. And he always makes a point to destroy those areas. It's just like constant, like torment of this person. And you just feel it like vibrating off her. The whole movie is like suffocating with tension, like both sexual tension. You could practically feel the heat, even though you don't see people sweating all the time in this movie. You kind of feel this heat coming out of this place. It's like, I was reminded just how great I think this movie is, and why I watched it so many times, and really just to watch her more than anything. I just thought she was so fantastic in this movie, and I just felt like I was in another world, a very sad world, obviously, but she is so captivating and entrancing in this film. Like, I feel like I'm literally watching somebody like lose their mind and seeing this fragile creature being crushed by the modern world. And it feels like the biggest, most dramatic thing ever. I can't say enough about it. It's a shame. You could just imagine if she had not been ill, how many more movies, how many more performances will we have gotten like this from Vivian Leigh? Like, these are two of the great moments of acting, like in cinema, period. Man or woman, anybody. Like these, like she hardly only made a few films, and she gave us this, which is like probably, I think any other actor who made 3 times as many movies would have given all of them to have one of these performances, be able to give one of these type of performances. So we bow to you, Vivian Leigh.
Yes. Queen Vivian Leigh. Well, if you didn't see Streetcar Named Desire, it's available on HBO Max right now, and certainly a must-watch. So please check it out. It's time for Name That Movie. We've got 2 fun ones. These are 2 movies I'm very familiar with, so I was able to get these. We'll see how you guys do.
Cool. Oh, and Walter, I did see your comments. I know all about Littlefeather. Oh yeah, that. Some other day when we talk about Marlon Brando, we will get into that. Major.
All right, here we go. Go ahead and guess what the movie is based on the images. Here we go. Oops.
So I see a plane. Is this a newer or an older movie, Amy?
Older. This is a pretty big one. This is one of my favorite comedies. This is a pretty... It's not Airplane. That's a little hard to tell. That's like a little camera inside of a matchbook.
Oh, is that what okay.
Yeah. Do you think you know what it is, Samir?
I actually don't. I don't recognize any of these images. At least I don't know it from these images, we'll put it that way. But I knew it wasn't airplane somehow. I feel like they would have gotten different images for airplane.
Oops. Any more guesses? It's not a Leonardo DiCaprio film. I think he's thinking it's Catch Me If You Can. No, it's not. But the same era as far as when the movie takes place. Kind of.
What is it, Dr. Strangelove?
It is!
Oh, well. I guess I did know it.
Yes, this is Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb.
I felt like I would have chosen different images.
Oh, see, I don't know. For me, the pieces are Profession and his secretary. Those are the big giveaways here.
Oh, see, for me, I was looking for an image from like the war room.
Gentlemen, well,
fighting in the war room. But that's not the image I think of. I think of the big round table and the light, the way it's lit. Like that's how I picture it in my brain.
Okay, here's another one. This is another very, very famous film. Let's see how you guys do with this.
Oh, okay.
Very, very famous movie. This is, I think, still the. Here we go. Luke got it. Shawshank Redemption.
I was gonna say, I'm like, this is a newer one, right?
Highest rated movie on IMDb, I think, still.
Really?
Yeah, isn't.
Okay.
I mean, I love this movie, but yeah, Shawshank Redemption. There we go.
I would probably rate most of the movies we've chosen above this. But all right, IMDb.
Well, it's already 4:00, but let's talk about Adaptation. This is the 4 out of 5 movies we were doing for our movies about movies. This came out in 2002. A lovelorn screenwriter becomes desperate as he tries and fails to adapt The Orchid Thief by Susan Orlean for the screen. Directed by Spike Jonze. And the screenplay was written by Charlie Kaufman. This is the movie where Charlie Kaufman, who has written so many amazing things and original creative things, he was having writer's block. He actually was supposed to be adapting the book, The Orchid Thief, and had trouble with it. And so he kind of thought this would end his career, but he ended up submitting a script that was more about him trying to adapt the screenplay. And he really thought, that's it. No one's going to like this. And it ended up being a huge hit. And this got nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay. This actually, so in this movie, Nicolas Cage plays Charlie Kaufman and this imaginary twin, Donald Kaufman, and the Oscar actually, the nomination went to Charlie Kaufman and Donald Kaufman.
Which it's on the poster. They fooled everybody. That's how they did it. So they just assumed that Donald Kaufman was a real person.
Yeah, right here under screenplay, yeah. This movie was also nominated for Best Actor for Nicolas Cage, Best Actress for Meryl Streep, and won Best Actor in a Supporting Role for Chris Cooper. Tilda Swinton is also in this movie. This has another. Doug Jones is in this movie to tie in Pan's Labyrinth.
He's everywhere.
Yeah, he is. It's been a long time since I've seen this movie. One of the little IMDb trivia things I read in particular about Nicolas Cage. I don't know if we've even done a movie that has Nicolas Cage. I have like a love-hate relationship with him. Samir's more on the hate side of him. But he was nominated for this, and I read something that was like, he said that he took away all of his normal acting instincts and actually really listened to the direction that Spike Jonze was giving him. And then he got nominated.
Well, he
So
got nominated for Leaving Las Vegas also, and I didn't think he was
yeah,
very good in that movie. I
I
don't think
think
that
I
movie is
like
very
him
good
in
in
Leaving Las
general, but
Vegas. Yeah, I that movie's just so dramatic, but and depressing.
you know, but it's like
Um,
not. I hate that movie, but I think it's really
I
bad. But
I
I
do
was happy
like
that
a
Chris
lot of
Cooper won for this one.
yeah, I like a lot of Nicolas Cage's comedic roles, and even some of his movies that are supposed to be dramatic end up being comedic. So maybe I
Very
will like
often.
this, just him playing these two characters. Yeah, Chris Cooper, he it's been so long since I've seen this movie,
Chris
but he
Cooper's
plays like the director, and he's like has missing teeth, and
yeah,
I guess Spike Jonze really gave him a lot of room to kind of do what he wanted with this role. I guess Chris Cooper asked for multiple takes for scenes to just kind of explore this character, and Spike Jonze accommodated him with that.
I'm glad because I like Walter calls him the great Chris Cooper, and I think that is a well-deserved title for him because he is a great actor, and he's almost like in every single movie he gives a great performance, and he just almost never gets recognized
He did
for it.
American Beauty.
And yeah, well, he plays the most interesting character in that whole movie, and probably gives the one really great performance in it, I think. Um, but I love him, and he just never seems to get that kind of recognition. But I also remember that when this movie came out, critics were kind of evenly divided on the second half of the film. So there's a point at which the film kind of appears as if it's somehow gone off the rails. And so a lot of critics sort of criticized specifically that the movie loses its way in the second half. Now, the way I interpreted it is very much that's sort of a break where the movie proper starts to turn into like what Hollywood would do to any story when it's adapting. Their solution is to invent more intrigue, add explosions, like add all this crap to make your story exciting, so you can sell it to an audience kind of thing. And so I feel like the movie is basically like, okay, well, let's see what happens when we take this story to this other place and do what Hollywood would want, what we think Hollywood would want to do. So I think it's like the movie doesn't flag or lose anything in the second half. I think it just keeps staying great. Because it really gives you an opportunity to think about, well, what does Hollywood really do with stories when they make movies of them? How many movies had this kind of stuff added to them against the will of the people who wrote it, or even the people who directed it? They were forced to put things in, like there's all these other questions that come up because of this film. So, and of course, the title tells you that that's the kind of question you're going to be asking when you watch it. But I remember disagreeing with all the critics who were like, oh, yeah, I get so stupid in the second half. And I'm like, are you missing the point here? Just a little bit.
Probably. Yeah, Charlie Kaufman has done some other really amazing things, including Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, one that we picked a while back. Yeah, really, what did he win for? Oh, he won for Eternal Sunshine.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
he won for that movie. I mean, that is another great
Yeah, he also
screenplay.
wrote Being John Malkovich with Spike Jonze. So another crazy. This movie's going to be a trip.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Was that one of the other tidbits that you found, Amy, when you're looking up trivia that Luke said here? Tom Hanks was initially going to play Kaufman.
I didn't get to that one. I read that Joaquin Phoenix was in the running for Chris Cooper's character, and he actually he was almost going to get the role, and then he turned it down. He said he's like, I just don't think I'm right for this actually, and took himself out of the running. Yeah, and then and then Chris Cooper came in and ended up winning an Oscar for it.
Good for you.
Good
Yeah,
for you.
no, it's been so long since I watched this. I think the last time I saw this was when I saw it in theaters. I think
Wow.
I actually do own it on DVD. I probably no, I think I did watch it once after that because I bought the DVD of it. But I haven't popped that DVD in the DVD player for a while. I mean, granted, I bought like hundreds of movies since I bought that one. So there are good reasons why. There are thousands of wonderful movies out there to watch, and I'm trying to make my way through as many of them as possible. So, you know, this show has given us an opportunity to revisit some of these forgotten loves.
Yeah, when we were going through, what movies to include for our movies about movies, this was one that stood out. We're like, "Oh yeah, what about this movie? Let's revisit this and let's highlight Chris Cooper and
Yeah.
squeeze in a Nicolas Cage movie,
I was
which
gonna
was
say Amy has been trying to get a Nicolas Cage movie in somewhere, but we can never really agree on like what it should be and where it should go. Because it's
yeah,
like, do we want to celebrate like campy garbage for the pure fun of campy garbage, or are we gonna try to celebrate a good movie? Like, and it's like the choices are always tough because it's like, well, we love him more for like his crappy performances, and the movies where he gives good performances are not always really good movies sometimes, so they're not all together pleasant watching it or viewing experiences. But this one, we're like, why do we always eliminate this one from the conversation? I don't know, because he is good in this movie, and like you said, because he basically just listened to his director and didn't do any of his cageisms, and you got like a
mhm.
real performance out of him. Kudos. And
Yeah,
we
yeah.
finally, someday we may get Vampire's Kiss in here just to watch him eat a cockroach live on film, but
Oh, yes, yes. I desperately want to watch that movie. Another thing I read was that Meryl Streep said that this was the best screenplay that she had ever read.
she's so good in this movie too. She gives such an unexpected performance in this film that that's what made me like really like love her more before we ever got to Wears Prada. Like I'd already seen her like do this role, and I'm like, okay, I know that Meryl Streep has a sense of humor about herself, and she is a lot more fun than maybe all of her, classic dramatic performances and multiple Oscar nominations would lead you to believe. Because for a while, all you could kind of see was Meryl Streep, the woman who mastered accents, and she was Sophie and Sophie's Choice. And it's like you have all these other famous images of her. So this movie, like, kind of blows some of those images out of the water. And really, she gets to kind of let loose a little in terms of the kind of role that she plays here. It's a lot of fun for that reason, too. So it's a sort of casting her against the type that her movie history leads you to believe you should expect from her. So even that casting choice and that performance is again part of this topsy-turvy sort of world of the mind and world of the movie that you're in with this picture. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching this again. This is available on Tubi. Um, Pro tip we have with Tubi is if you have an Apple TV, search for it under your Apple TV, and then it'll say like open in Tubi, because the actual app Tubi or the website, whichever one you do, it doesn't have a search feature. So
Wait, Tubi doesn't have a search feature anymore?
I don't think it does. Wasn't that the one that never did have a search
No,
feature?
that was Pluto TV.
Oh, okay, maybe
I
Tubi
think
does.
Tubi does have a. Let me double check real quick. And Tubi,
Oh, right, no, it
we
does.
highly recommend Tubi. It's a free app, and it has an amazing range of content. With not terrible, like at least sometimes, maybe most of the time, I've not felt like I've been bombarded with too many commercials. Um, but they're placed a little better.
Okay,
Um,
it does have it. It does have it.
Okay, I was like, I'm almost positive that it's got a search function. I do not know how they get as many movies as they do, because they get really like well-known movies, and they have a really wide array of stuff there. And like I said, it's all free with just a few ads, and not as many ads as you got on Pluto TV, which does not have a search function. But like I'm just looking at it now, and I'm like, oh look, there's Superfly and the Hunger Games movies.
And 9.
Uh, yeah, that one's probably not going to get. That one's probably not going to get any action. I'm afraid.
Yeah, they've got a real,
Normally nines would
variety
be.
here.
I would pay attention to anything with a 9 on it, but
Yeah. Oh my god, wait, what is this?
What are
There's
you
some
looking for?
movie now I'm, like, caught up. There's some weird movie called Much Ado About Nothing, but they made it look like the Twilight poster and font. This is an adaptation of Shakespeare's play set in a modern day high school. Oh my god, this looks awful. Like we said,
That's terrible. But
there's a whole spectrum of quality on, Tubi, but it is available for free, so please give it a watch
mhm.
and, join us tomorrow as we discuss it. Um, Tomorrow, we are not doing a double feature. We will be focusing solely on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which won Best Editing. Um,
Mhm.
the main reason why we decided not to, well, editing has never had a dual Oscar. Of course, neither had makeup, but the Oscars, of course, are on Sunday, and for
Mhm.
me, that takes up pretty much the whole day. So we really want to, just like focus on this movie. Maybe give you time to watch whatever your favorite Best Picture is, and then of course watch the Oscars all
I
day. Like I
will
will.
have a recommendation for an additional viewing if
Okay.
you want, just because we didn't have room to get to a couple other categories that would have been fun to go over. We kind of ended up going with mostly categories that had dual black and white and color
Mm.
awards awarded. And then, things like art direction were like, we can't just do one movie about
Yeah.
art direction anyways, and luckily they gave us an option for two, because there was black, so what was the one that we did too that was makeup, but that was to keep the double feature thing going.
Yeah,
So I'll
and
have
we
a
will have a double
recommended
feature.
additional viewing for a
Yeah,
best music winner, but it's
we'll get to that tomorrow. Yeah.
yeah, it's mostly going to be about the editing
Yeah, well, we'll
award.
talk about lots of Oscar things tomorrow. I will certainly share some of my favorite Best Picture winners that I always try to squeeze in during the Oscar season. Yeah, so we'll have a fun day tomorrow. I might attempt to pull off a Jessica Rabbit look, but the only red wig I have is short. So already don't judge me for that, okay?
Oh well, I'm sure you will look just swimmingly
I
beautiful.
will try. I will try. Anywho, please enjoy Adaptation. Join us tomorrow. Please consider donating to our Patreon. Link is in the comments. Thank you guys for joining us today, and we'll see you tomorrow.